I should have destroyed it the second I saw it. No hesitation, no second guessing. Just smashed it to pieces and tossed it into the trash. But that's not what I did. And because of that choice, I've been living in a nightmare I can't wake up from. You don't understand yet, but you will. Someone, something, sent me a USB drive. Not some corporate promotional freebie. Not some lost and found office junk. No, this was different. It was deliberate. It was meant for me. The envelope looked innocent enough at first glance. White padded, with a faint chemical smell clinging to it. The kind you notice, but can't quite place, like antiseptic mixed with mold. My name was printed in block letters on the front. No return address. No sender. Just meant for me. I stood in my kitchen, envelope in one hand, a takeout container in the other, the ordinary hum of my fridge filling the silence. For one moment, everything was normal. My life, my safe, boring, pathetic life, was perfectly intact. That was the last moment I'd ever be able to say that. Inside was a USB drive. Heavy, scratched, almost industrial looking. Not the sleek, plastic kind you buy at a convenience store. This thing looked like it had been passed down through hands that didn't care whether it survived or not, only that it kept moving forward. A thin sticker was stuck to one side. Its ink faded, showing a string of numbers I couldn't immediately recognize. And here's the part that gets me. My first thought wasn't fear. It was curiosity. I remember actually laughing, like, what kind of creep thinks mailing strangers old flash drives is a prank? If you're already rolling your eyes at me, good. You should be. I'd give anything to go back to that moment and punch the curiosity out of myself. Still, I didn't throw it away. I held it up to the kitchen light, turning it between my fingers, and I swear for just a second, I thought I saw something etched into the metal. Not scratched. Etched. A symbol, maybe? Or maybe my brain just wanted it to be something more. I'll let you wonder about that, because even now, I can't be sure. Here's the thing. People always say hindsight is 20/20, but in that moment, it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt inevitable. Like it was waiting for me. Like all the nights I'd spent doom-scrolling conspiracy threads, watching videos I wasn't supposed to watch, whispering about the dark web in anonymous chats. Like all of that had been leading me right to this. And maybe it had. I want you to remember something. When a stranger leaves something on your doorstep, especially something electronic, it isn't a gift. It's an infection. It crawls into your life the second you let it, and it never leaves. I didn't know that yet. I was still holding the drive, still thinking of it as some kind of puzzle or mystery, still under the illusion that I was in control. But before I tell you what was on it, you need to understand why I plugged it in at all. Before the USB, before the nightmares, before I started second-guessing every sound outside my window, I was nobody. And honestly, I was okay with that. Most nights looked the same. I'd get home from my IT help desk job around 7, microwave something that came in a box, and collapse into the familiar glow of my second monitor. The hum of fans, the smell of stale energy drinks, the low chatter from Discord. It was all so ordinary, predictable, safe. I wasn't special. I wasn't the guy who took risks or lived dangerously. My biggest adventure was scrolling Reddit at 2 a.m., convincing myself that the scariest story ever told on r/nosleep would somehow keep me awake, when really I'd be snoring into my keyboard 20 minutes later. That was me, the faceless lurker, the one who consumed stories about other people's horrors, but never had any of his own. I had friends, in the loosest sense of the word, a handful of usernames I talked to daily, guys I'd never met in person, but knew better than my coworkers. They'd vent about their relationships, their bosses, their paranoia about governments and secret networks. I always played the skeptic, the guy who cracked jokes, dropped sarcastic comments, and laughed off the idea of hidden evils. It was easier that way. Safer, too. If you had asked me back then, I would have told you I didn't believe in monsters. Not in the literal sense, anyway. People were monsters, sure. History books proved that much. But demons, curses, supernatural punishments? That was entertainment, not reality. But here's the thing. I was fascinated by it anyway. There was something comforting about exploring fear in a controlled environment. Reading stories where someone else suffered, someone else screamed, someone else discovered something they shouldn't have. I could walk right up to the edge of terror and step back whenever I wanted. Fear was fun, as long as it wasn't mine. That's what I told myself anyway. Late nights, I'd find myself wandering deeper into forums that blurred the line between fiction and truth. Places where the posts weren't just creepy, they were wrong. Not wrong like poorly written, but wrong like they weren't meant to be seen. Threads about hidden websites, access keys to shadow networks, people selling things that no human being should be able to sell. I close the tab, shut my laptop, and mutter, "It's just roleplay. Just some edgy LARP for freaks with too much free time." And yet, I'd always come back. I told myself it was harmless curiosity, that I wasn't part of it, just an observer. Always an observer. Looking back, I think that was the lie that ruined me. Because the truth is, you don't get to be just an observer forever. You look too long into something rotten, and eventually, it looks back. The day the USB arrived wasn't special. Nothing cosmic aligned. No storm raged outside my window. It was Tuesday. I ate a cold slice of leftover pizza for breakfast. I answered emails from people who didn't know how to restart their routers. I got stuck in traffic behind a school bus and yelled at nobody in particular. A day so stupidly normal it might as well have been designed to make what came next feel more shocking. That's why it worked. That's why it still works. Horror doesn't knock when you're ready for it. It barges in when you're comfortable, when you're distracted, when you're sure the world is just as boring as it was yesterday. I didn't know it at the time, but all those hours spent poking around conspiracy forums and laughing off dark web warnings were like leaving the back door unlocked. And the USB? That was the moment something finally decided to step inside. And that's when the package showed up. The package sat on my counter longer than I'd like to admit. I didn't tear into it right away. Not because I was suspicious, but because I was lazy. I figured it was some Amazon order I'd forgotten about. Batteries, maybe, or a replacement cable. I had a habit of ordering junk half asleep and not remembering until it arrived. But when I finally picked it up, something felt wrong. The envelope wasn't like the ones Amazon used. It was thick, padded, sealed with strips of tape that had been layered twice, maybe 3 times. The weight wasn't right either. Too heavy for something so small, like it was made of metal instead of plastic. I turned it over in my hands, frowning. No return address, no company logo, just my name in sharp, blocky letters, as though printed by a machine that didn't care if the ink smudged. And the smell. God, the smell was the first real red flag. It wasn't overwhelming, but once I noticed it, I couldn't ignore it. A faint, chemical tang, like rubbing alcohol mixed with something sourer, almost organic. It clung to my fingertips after I touched the tape, and I remember scrubbing my hands at the sink, convinced I'd picked up something toxic. I should have stopped there. Should have tossed it in the trash, unopened, and gone on with my evening. But I didn't. Inside was the USB drive. It was ugly, industrial, scratched, cold to the touch. The kind of thing you'd expect to find in a government office circa 2002, not in someone's mailbox. One side had a sticker, faded almost to nothing, with a string of numbers and slashes. Not dates, not IP addresses, just something. I tilted it toward the light and caught what looked like tiny scratches across the casing. For a second, I thought they formed a symbol, but it was too faint to be sure. I grabbed my phone and snapped a picture, then sent it to a buddy of mine on Discord. We'll call him Mark. Me. Yo, look what I just got in the mail. Mark, what is that? A drive. Me, yeah. No sender. Just showed up. Mark, dude. That's bait. Straight up dark web bait. Don't plug it in. I laughed when I read that. Of course he'd say that. Mark was always the paranoid one, always warning me about cyber stings and hidden malware. Me, relax. It's probably a free promo or something. Mark, no company sends out free USBs in blank envelopes, bro, seriously. Trash it. I told him I'd think about it, but I didn't mean it. Because as much as I wanted to act like the cautious, rational guy, there was this itch in the back of my mind. A curiosity I couldn't shake. Who sends a stranger a USB drive? What could possibly be on it? I set it down on my desk and tried to ignore it, but it was impossible. Every time I glanced at my monitor, it was there, glinting in the glow of the screen like it was waiting. And maybe this is where I admit something uncomfortable. Part of me wanted it to be dangerous. Not just a dead drive or some company's mistake. I wanted it to be something forbidden. Something that would make me feel like I'd stumbled into a secret no one else was supposed to see. That's the real reason I didn't listen to Mark. I carried the drive into my bedroom and held it up under the lamp. The scratches on the casing seemed sharper in that light, like grooves carved with a deliberate hand. I squinted, tracing them with my thumb. A circle, or maybe an eye. I couldn't be sure. I tried to take another photo, but the scratches didn't show up on camera. They were too faint, too subtle. That was the second red flag. The third came when I left the drive on my nightstand and went to brush my teeth. I swear that when I came back, it had shifted. Just a little. Turned at a different angle, but enough to make my stomach twist. I told myself it was nothing. Gravity. The vibration from shutting the door. My imagination. But deep down, I knew better. I picked it up again, feeling the cold metal against my skin, and whispered to myself like a madman. It's just a drive. Just a drive. Just a drive. Of course, I didn't throw it away. Of course, I ignored the smell, the scratches, the warnings. Of course, I plugged it in. I plugged it in like an idiot. That sharp little click as the drive slid into the USB port felt louder than it should have, like the sound of a lock turning on a door I wasn't supposed to open. My monitor flickered for a second, then stabilized. At first, nothing. Just the usual pop-up, removable drive, No autoplay, no virus warning. For a moment I felt stupid, like I'd built this entire scenario up in my head for no reason. Maybe Mark was right. Maybe it was junk. I opened the drive. Inside were 4 folders. Their names looked random at first glance. Strings of letters and numbers. But the more I stared, the more I realized they weren't random at all. They were patterns. Palindromes. Repeating sequences. Mathematical spirals. Like someone had obsessed over symmetry while naming them. I clicked the first folder. Empty. The second. Empty. The third, also empty. The fourth one wasn't. It held exactly 3 files. readme.txt, watchme.mp4, and another video with a name so long it ran off the screen. That was the moment my laptop fan kicked into overdrive. The whole system stuttered, like it was struggling under a load it shouldn't have had. My desktop background flickered from my usual wallpaper to solid black for half a second before returning. I opened readme.txt. It was just one line of text. You shouldn't be here. That's it. No instructions, no context, no author. Just those words, sitting there like a dare. I should have listened. I should have yanked the drive out and thrown it out the window. Instead, I clicked watchme.mp4. The video was short, less than 30 seconds. At first, it was just static, the kind you'd see on an old TV. Then the image steadied. It was a room. Bare walls, concrete floor, a single overhead bulb. The camera was set low, angled toward a chair in the center. A man sat slumped in it, head hanging forward, face obscured. His hands were bound behind his back. I leaned closer, squinting. Something about the room felt familiar. Before I could place it, the man in the chair twitched. His head lifted slightly, and even though the video quality was grainy, I felt his eyes land on me, right through the screen. I slammed the window shut. My heart hammered in my chest. I messaged Mark again. Me? Okay, you were right. This thing's messed up. Mark, what did you do? Me. Watched a file. Some guy in a chair. Mark, bro, unplug it. Now. I typed out a reply, but stopped. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed my webcam light flicker. Just a tiny red glow that winked on for half a second, then off again. The paranoia hit me like a wave. I covered the cam with a sticker, unplugged my mic, and sat there sweating in the glow of my monitor. The cursor on my screen moved. By itself. It drifted up, hovered over the long-named video file, and double-clicked. The screen went black, then filled with another feed. This time, it wasn't a strange room. It was my street. The camera angle was high, maybe from a lamppost or security cam. It showed my apartment building, the dim glow of my own window in the upper right corner. Cars passed occasionally. Nothing else moved. Until it did. A shadow detached itself from the darkness near the curb and began to walk. Not toward the building, not toward the street, but straight toward the camera. The feed cut off before I could see its face. I ripped out my headphones and stumbled back, my chair slamming into the wall. My phone buzzed. A Discord notification from Mark. Mark, what the hell are you doing? Your screen just streamed to me. My stomach dropped. Me, what? I didn't share anything. Mark, I just watched your desktop, row static, then a street cam. Are you messing with me? I didn't reply. Couldn't, because the third file, the one with the long, impossible name, was opening by itself, and that was the first time I felt like I wasn't alone in my room. The screen lit up, and my breath caught in my throat. The third video was different from the others. It wasn't grainy security footage or shaky camcorder clips. The quality was sharp, almost too sharp, like the lens was designed to make sure nothing could be missed. The image showed another room, different from the concrete one before. This one had peeling wallpaper, a dusty carpet, and a single window covered by blinds that leaked faint slats of light. In the center was a bed, and lying on that bed was a man, or what was left of one. His face was turned toward the camera, mouth slack, eyes wide open. His chest didn't rise, didn't fall. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the room itself. I knew it. It wasn't immediate, but as my eyes scanned the walls, the corner where plaster had crumbled, the crooked blinds, I realized it was almost identical to the spare room in my own apartment. My throat went dry. I whispered to myself, "No, that's impossible." The camera angle shifted suddenly, zooming closer to the man on the bed. His skin was gray mottled. His lips moved, just slightly, like he was trying to form words. And for half a second, I swore his eyes rolled toward me. The screen glitched, lines cutting across the frame, and then silence. The video ended. I sat there, staring at the empty media player. My reflection in the black screen looked pale, almost corpse-like. Before I could react, another window popped open on its own. A new video file. I hadn't clicked anything. This one was footage of a street again, but not my street. A different neighborhood. The camera panned slowly, almost deliberately, before settling on a house. A light was on upstairs, and through the thin curtains, I could see someone moving. The camera zoomed in until the figure was clear. A woman brushing her hair. She looked tired, oblivious, vulnerable. The video ended suddenly, replaced by another, and another. Each file seemed to autoplay without my consent, one after the other. A man waiting for a bus at night. A child walking alone down a sidewalk. A couple arguing in a kitchen. Normal people in normal places being watched. Every video felt stolen, like peering through a window I was never meant to see through. The worst part, none of them were shot like amateur recordings. The framing was perfect, too perfect. Whoever filmed these knew exactly what they were doing. Then came the third sequence, and this one broke me. The camera was inside a room. My room. The angle was unmistakable. It was taken from the corner where my dresser sat, pointing toward my bed. The sheets were rumpled, pillows piled awkwardly, and in the center of the frame, clear as day, was me. I was asleep. The blood drained from my face. My first instinct was to look behind me, to whip around and check that corner. Empty. Just my dresser and a pile of laundry. No camera, no tripod. But the video had me there, lying on my side, breathing slowly, unaware that someone was filming me. I felt bile rise in my throat. My hand shook as I tried to close the window, but the mouse lagged. The system stuttered again, and then, without me touching anything, the video looped. I watched myself sleep. Again and again. I slammed the laptop shut and shoved it off my desk, the thud echoing through the apartment. My heart was racing so fast I thought I'd black out. My phone buzzed. A new message from Mark. Mark, dude, are you okay? You froze on my end. Your screen cut to black. I didn't answer right away. I was too busy staring at the laptop on the floor, half expecting it to open itself. Finally, I typed back with trembling fingers. Me. It showed me. Sleeping. In my room. Mark. What? Me. Footage of me. In bed. from inside my apartment. "Mark, that's not possible. You don't have cameras." "Me, I know." There was a long pause before he replied again. "Mark, man, you need to get rid of that thing. Smash it. Burn it. Do something." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something kept me frozen, because there was one more file. At the bottom of the folder, hidden in a subdirectory I hadn't noticed before, was another video. This one wasn't autoplaying. It sat there, waiting. The file name was short. Just 3 words. The last one. I stared at it for what felt like hours. My mind screamed at me not to click, to end this now, to throw the drive out, to cut the cord. But my hand hovered over the mouse anyway, because deep down, a part of me already knew. This wasn't just random footage. These weren't strangers. This wasn't coincidence. This was a sequence, a chain, and I was part of it. I didn't open the file that night. I couldn't. But I'll tell you this. I thought about it. Every second until the sun came up, I thought about it. And I knew I wouldn't last long before I gave in. I wish I could say I woke up the next morning and laughed it all off. That I convinced myself it was just some elaborate prank or malware hallucination and moved on with my life. But I didn't sleep at all. Not really. I drifted in and out, twitching awake at every creak of the floorboards, every groan of the pipes. And when I did finally pass out, the images came back in my dreams. The man in the chair, the corpse on the bed, and myself, caught from the corner of my own room like a bug under glass. When I staggered to the kitchen that morning, eyes bloodshot, the USB was sitting on the counter. That detail probably doesn't mean much to you yet. So let me be clear. I had left it in the laptop. I'd slammed the lid shut, shoved the whole thing onto the floor, and crawled into bed. But when I woke up, there it was, centered neatly on the counter, like someone had placed it there on purpose. I froze in the doorway, the hairs on my arms standing on end. My first thought was Mark. Maybe he'd come over in the night to scare me. But that didn't make sense. He lived 2 states away. He didn't have a key. And even if he had broken in, why would he leave without waking me? I grabbed the drive with shaking fingers, shoved it in my pocket, and left the apartment. I needed air, space, distance. But distance didn't help. That day at work, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. No caller ID, just static on the other end. I hung up. 30 seconds later, it rang again. More static. A whisper threaded through the noise, too faint to understand. I slammed the phone onto my desk, earning a weird look from my coworker. "You good?" she asked. Yeah, I lied. Spam call. But it wasn't spam. I knew it. The whispers kept coming. 2 more calls before lunch. By the time I clocked out, I turned the phone off entirely. But the unease didn't fade. That night, when I pulled into my apartment complex, headlights flared in my rear view. A dark sedan had followed me off the highway, through 3 turns, and into the lot. When I parked, it didn't. It idled at the far end of the lot, lights dimmed, engine humming. I stared at it for a long time, trying to summon the courage to get out. Finally, I forced myself to open the door, pretending like nothing was wrong. The moment my feet hit the pavement, the sedan's headlights snapped back on. It rolled forward, slow, deliberate. I bolted for the stairwell. By the time I reached my floor and peeked over the railing, the car was gone. Inside, I locked every bolt, drew the curtains, and paced my living room like a caged animal. I told myself I was imagining it, that paranoia had finally sunk its claws into me. But then there was a knock at my door. Not a friendly knock. Not a neighborly, oops, wrong apartment knock. This was slow, rhythmic. 3 taps. A pause. 3 more. I froze. The knock came again. I wanted to shout, to tell whoever it was to leave, but my throat closed up. I just stood there in the dark, holding my breath, praying they'd go away. After what felt like an hour, the knocking stopped. When I finally dared to look through the peephole, the hallway was empty. I thought maybe I'd imagined it, until I turned and saw the USB drive sitting on my coffee table. I hadn't put it there. I hadn't even taken it out of my pocket. My stomach dropped as I dug into my jeans and found the pocket empty. That was when I realized it didn't matter where I left it. I could throw it out a window, flush it down the toilet, smash it with a hammer. It would still come back. And it did. 3 nights in a row, I tried. Trash can, dumpster, even the river by the old mill. Every morning, it was back. Sometimes on the counter, sometimes on the nightstand. Once, horrifyingly, it was balanced on my pillow beside my head. That was the night I stopped sleeping. The final straw came from my neighbor. She was a sweet older woman, always watering her plants in the hallway. One afternoon, she caught me fumbling with my keys, pale and trembling, and said casually, "You've had company lately." I froze. "What?" "Tall man. Stands by your window sometimes." I thought it was a friend, but he doesn't wave back when I say hello. I forced a laugh. Probably just a delivery guy. But she shook her head. "Not in uniform. Doesn't carry anything. Just watches." I went inside, locked the door, and nearly collapsed against it. They weren't just watching me through screens anymore. They were here, with me. And then, the final file opened on its own. I didn't open the file. That's important for you to understand. I didn't click it. I didn't even touch the laptop that night. I'd been avoiding it, treating it like a venomous snake coiled in the corner of the room. But sometime after midnight, the fan whirred to life on its own. The screen lit up, pale blue against the darkness, and the folder window blinked open. The file was labeled simply "You." I felt my chest cave in. My brain screamed at me to shut the lid, to rip the cord out of the wall, to smash the damn thing with the hammer I'd left on the counter. But I couldn't move. My body locked in place as if whatever force had brought the USB back, again and again, was now pinning me in place. The video launched. At first, it was just me. Footage of myself sitting at the laptop, the night I'd first plugged the drive in. Same clothes, same slouched posture. I watched myself lean forward, click the folders, flinch at the static. Then it jumped, different angle, different night. I was asleep in bed, my body curled tight. The faint glow of the streetlight cutting through the blinds. The camera panned, slow and deliberate, until it focused on my face. I whispered, "No." The video cut again. Now I was at work, typing at my desk. The angle was impossible, hovering above my shoulder, catching the faint reflection of my monitor. My coworker walked past, blurred, oblivious. The timestamp on the corner of the screen was yesterday. Another cut, another scene. And this time it was now. I saw myself, frozen on the couch, staring wide-eyed at the laptop. The angle came from just behind me, close enough that I swore I felt breath on the back of my neck. The me on the screen began to tremble. My lips parted, and then I heard it. "Do you see now?" A voice rasped, not from the speakers, but from everywhere. The walls, the floor, inside my own skull. The video flickered. My image warped, stretched, the pixels twisting into something less human. My jaw unhinged too wide. My eyes rolled white. My hands clawed at the air. "This is the moment," the voice said. "The moment you realize you were never watching us. We were watching you." I don't know if I screamed. I don't know if I moved. All I remember is the smell of ozone, like the air after a lightning strike, and the heavy thud of my heart threatening to rip through my ribs. The video cut to black. For a heartbeat, I thought it was over. But then text began to appear, typed out as if by invisible hands. "You cannot warn them. They are next." The cursor blinked, paused. Then, "Do you believe us now?" I slammed the laptop shut, so hard the screen cracked. The sound echoed through the apartment, sharp as a gunshot. My chest heaved, tears streaming down my face without me even realizing. But even through the closed lid, I could still hear the typing. Keys clicking, deliberate, steady, spelling out words I couldn't see, but felt burned into my brain. I wanted to run, to leave everything behind, to grab my keys, my wallet, and disappear. But some part of me understood it was useless. Distance didn't matter. Locks didn't matter. Time didn't matter. They'd been with me from the moment I opened that first file. And now they wanted me to understand, not just what they were, but what I'd become. When I finally dared to lift the lid again, the screen glowed faintly. No desktop, no files. Just one message. "You are part of the recording now." The laptop died, and the room was so quiet, I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. The first time I thought it had all been a nightmare. I woke up on the couch with the cracked laptop, sitting shut in front of me. The USB gone. My apartment looked normal. No overturned furniture. No scratches on the walls. No sign of the terror that had unfolded hours earlier. My first thought was that I'd finally lost it. My sleep-deprived brain had staged a rebellion and decided to punish me with hallucinations. I almost laughed. Almost. But then my phone buzzed on the table. A notification. I picked it up, thumb trembling, and there it was, a text from an unknown number. Check your mailbox. My stomach bottomed out. I tried to ignore it, tossed the phone across the room, and told myself it was a scam. But the dread had already settled, gnawing through my ribs. Against every instinct, I went downstairs. The hallway was too quiet, the kind of silence that amplifies every little sound. The buzz of the lights, the hum of the pipes, the squeak of my sneakers on the tile. I opened the mailbox, and there it was, the padded envelope. No return address, no markings. Inside, I already knew, was the USB. I carried it upstairs like a condemned man, holding his own death warrant. I wanted to scream, to smash it in the stairwell, to run and never look back. But I didn't. I couldn't. That's the thing, whatever's behind this. It isn't just sending the drive. It's pulling me back into the cycle, whether I want to or not. Back inside, I tore the envelope open. The same black USB tumbled into my palm. Same scuffed surface, same faint chemical smell. I dropped it on the table and stumbled backward, whispering to myself, "Don't plug it in. Don't do it. Don't give them what they want." But I already knew how this ended, because that's when I noticed something new. My laptop had repaired itself. The crack on the screen was gone. The casing was smooth, unblemished, like it had never been touched. The machine was waiting, and I was right back where I'd started. This time, I tried to fight. I shoved the USB in a drawer, locked it, and buried the key under a pile of books. I left the apartment, walked until my legs ached, tried to lose myself in the noise of the city. For a while, I almost convinced myself I was free. But when I returned, the drawer was open. The key was back on my desk. The USB was plugged neatly into my laptop, which was already humming. Screen awake, folder open. The same files. The same nightmare. Only now, there was an extra folder at the bottom. A new one. It was labeled with today's date. My throat dried out as I clicked it. Inside were dozens of clips, footage of me, walking downtown, ordering coffee, sitting on a park bench, staring at the river, trying to steady my breathing. All of it filmed from just far enough away that I hadn't noticed. I didn't need the voice to whisper this time. I understood the message. There was no running, no hiding, and no way out. Days bled into each other after that, or maybe it was weeks. I don't know anymore. Sleep became impossible. Eating pointless. Every time I thought I'd resisted, I'd wake to find the files had grown longer, more detailed. I'd see myself pacing the apartment, muttering under my breath. See myself crouched in the shower, hands over my ears, rocking back and forth. Once, I saw myself sitting right here, recording this. Yes, recording. That's the part one haven't told you. Because somewhere in this endless loop, it clicked. This is the purpose. Not just to terrify me, not just to consume me, but to spread. To you. Every story has to be told for it to live, right? Every curse has to be passed along. And now I'm the vessel. Maybe you think I'm crazy. Maybe you're shaking your head, convinced this is just another creepypasta, another urban legend designed to give you a thrill before bed. That's what I thought too, until I saw myself watching, listening, doubting, until I realized that even disbelief feeds them. Because you're still here, still listening, still looking at the screen. And that means they found you too. I'm not sure how long I'll last. I can feel the walls closing in again, the loop pulling me back toward the start. Soon, I'll wake up, find the envelope in the mailbox, and begin again. And maybe this time, the new folder will have your name on it. So when your phone buzzes tonight, when you get that text from the number you don't recognize, don't check your mailbox. Don't look out your window. Don't answer the knock at your door. Because if you do, you'll understand why it never ends. By now, you probably think you figured it out. Another cursed object story. Another haunted file from the bottomless pit of the dark web. You listen, you shiver. You close the app and move on. But you don't get it. This isn't just a story I'm telling. This is a handoff, a transaction. The only way I've made it this far is by sharing it, by pushing it outward instead of letting it rot inside me. That's the rule. That's the game. And it's your turn. I can already feel the shift. The buzzing in the walls is softer now, like static fading after a storm. The weight pressing down on my chest is lifted, just enough for me to take a clean breath. That means it's working. That means the USB isn't only mine anymore. It's bleeding into you. Don't believe me? That's fine. You'll see soon enough. Maybe you'll notice the flicker in your screen, like a shadow that isn't supposed to be there. Maybe you'll hear the knock at your door when no one's outside. Or maybe you'll dream of that black USB sitting on your table, waiting for you to touch it. I promise it'll come. And when it does, you'll understand why I couldn't stop. Why I kept watching, kept listening, kept feeding the cycle even when it hollowed me out from the inside. Because once it finds you, you don't get a choice. You're not the audience anymore. You're the subject. Think about it. How did I know you'd be here? How did I know you'd listen all the way to the end? There are no coincidences. They guided you here. They wanted you to hear this. They wanted me to speak directly to you. Look over your shoulder right now. Go on. I dare you. Do you see anyone? No. Then wait. Because sooner or later you will. It might be tonight. It might be next week. But you'll catch the shape in the corner of your eye. Too tall, too still. Watching. And when you finally gather the courage to look straight at it, it'll be gone. That's how it starts. And the end. The end is when you stop doubting and start recording. Just like I did. When you realize you're not just telling the story, you're continuing it. You're sealing your own place in the archive. The drive doesn't just store files. It stores people. And congratulations, you're next in line. So if you ever find the envelope in your mailbox, plain, padded, unmarked, don't open it. Don't touch it. Don't plug it in. Because the moment you do, the story resets. And this time, you're the one sending the message.